Evening, everyone. Today is May 28th, 2020, and this is a special called meeting of the Board of Education to discuss technology purchase of Chromebooks, carts, and hotspots. I will officially call us to order, and please join me in a moment of silence. There are so many things going on in the world today. Ms. Sidbury has an awesome background of all the lives that are affected by police brutality and other factors. And so please join me in a moment of silence as we think about all the lives that are affected and how we can come together as a community to start to work towards fighting against that. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay, the third item on our agenda, first was call to order, second was a moment of silence. The third item on our agenda is agenda review and approval. As you can see in our agenda, we actually have one item, which is the initiative, one-to-one initiative, purchase of Chromebooks, carts, and hotspots. I would like to add at the request of Dr. Monk, I would like us to add one item dealing with, it is the cleaning and disinfecting contract for May 28, 2020. I'll have him talk about it, but it's something we really need to act on so we could get started once everyone vacates our building, since the school is what it is and we have kids and teachers coming in to pick up their equipment. But how do we disinfect for that? And I'll have him speak to that. I'll have him do it after the one-to-one initiative, because this meeting is really specifically about the one-to-one initiative, but this is an extra item that we would need to take action on. And the reason I added it, I'm asking to add, is because we need to act on it fairly quickly instead of waiting. So, and we have an opportunity here tonight. So I will request a motion. Well, I guess it wouldn't be a motion. I will request a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of the cleaning and disinfecting contract for May 28, 2020. And that'll be after the Chief of Staff presents.
So moved. Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded that we approve the agenda, adding the cleaning and disinfecting contract for May 28th, 2020, which will be presented after the Chief of Staff presents the one-to-one initiative. I'm going to do a roll call vote simply because we're on Zoom. Natalie Byer.
Aye.
Looking where everybody is here. Minnie Fort Brown.
Aye.
Xavier Kaysen.
Aye.
Steve Unruh.
Aye.
Bettina Umstead.
Aye.
And Matt Sears.
This is Matt Sears. I vote aye.
Okay, and the chair votes aye as well. The passes unanimously. The agenda has been set. And the fourth item on our agenda is the Chief of Staff's update one-to-one initiative. I'll turn it over to Dr. Obenga to send it to his staff.
All right, thank you, Chairman Lee. Let me just take this opportunity to say thank you to board members for being that flexible. As you all know, we're dealing with this COVID. We're not saying this is going to be the norm, but we anticipate that probably there are going to be occasions like this as we're moving forward so that we can expedite the process. Just wanted to say thank you for flexibility that you're giving us as we bring you those items. So without further ado, I'm passing this to Attorney Giovanni.
Thank you, Dr. Mbenga. Good evening, board members, Chairman Lee, and Dr. Mbenga. If you recall, prior to the coronavirus, we had initially presented the board with information regarding a plan to effectuate a 3-to-1 initiative for Durham Public Schools. We have subsequently, since the coronavirus, experienced a completely new situation. We are all aware that Academic Services has provided paper packets for our students, but those were not for new learning. It is Dr. Mubenga's decision and his direction that in order for our students not to fall behind and to be able to experience new learning, both in the brick and mortar buildings and in the event that we have to continue with remote learning, that Durham Public Schools move to a one-to-one initiative. We have a large task force that has been working almost nonstop. Typically, one-to-one plans take anywhere from 12 months to 24 months to effectuate. So we have been working very hard on this program to make sure that our students are going to be able to maximize every learning opportunity that they have. It is imperative, and as we go through this experience, that students around the country and our Durham Public School students become 21st century learners. And our strategic plan, Goal 1D, emphasizes that. With that, I would like to turn it over to Mr. Benjamin Brown to share with you additional details regarding the purchase of the devices necessary for our students. Mr. Brown.
Good afternoon, board members and Dr. Mubenga. Do we have the slide available? And we can move to slide 4. Next slide. Yes, thank you. So earlier in the month of May, the committee team members presented to you a draft of our plan. The next step was to purchase devices and Wi-Fi hotspots. As Ms. Giovanni stated, we also presented to you in March concerning a 3-to-1 ratio for student devices. Our current step is to purchase these devices and present to you what our findings are thus far. Next slide. We petition different vendors on pricing. This is the pricing via Lenovo for these devices. Also for carts, it would be CDWG, and the hotspot pricing is from AT&T, all of which are on state contract. So for procurement, we have 2,016 devices. We will also, let me interject something. We will give you how we got these numbers in the next slide. For pricing, it is $260.70 per device. We need 556 carts at a price of $1,128.75. Hotspots, 6,000. Pricing monthly per hotspot is $45.98. Averaging $275,880 per month. A one-time price for those hotspots of 99 cents. And these are the totals on the right side. Total for devices is $7,220,772. Parts, $627,585,000. Hotspots. For 9 months, it would be $2,482,920 at a price of $5,940. And also the total estimate is $10,337,217. Next slide. So as you all may know, back in at the beginning of the month, we presented numbers for projected ADM and also devices that were coming at end of life as of 2020. Because our time has moved back, we moved that end of life date back to 2021. As you all remember, back in March, I expressed to you my concerns about our devices that were coming at end of life. So we wanted to incorporate the devices we currently have that we could use all the way into next year with our ADM and projected numbers. Mr. Mujambi, would you interject for me right now?
Really, I think you've explained all well. I just want to reaffirm to the board that the numbers that they're looking at, as you said, we moved the expiry date to 2021. We didn't want to get into a situation whereby we quote devices whose warranty is going out next month. But also to add to that, these numbers were vetted with all the technology champions at the schools. We made sure that they verify that those are the numbers that they have. So we're pretty confident of the numbers that we're showing you today. As you can see, it comes down to 19,956 devices. But divvying up those through the cuts and making sure that we have a good buffer just in case a device dies on arrival. That's why we turned it to 20,016 devices, make sure that we have them divvied up in the cuts, but also to make sure that we have that buffer of around 60 Chromebooks, just in case of anything that happens.
And to add on to the end of that, Paul, also, these numbers are juxtaposed to the Chromebooks we have in our Google console. So we vetted those numbers all the way down to the school level. Next slide.
Can I ask a question here? Go back to the, well, hey, there's questions. Hey, there we are. Right on time. Just on this numbers here, are we assuming, what's the assumption here as far as every student, is it every student getting a Chromebook? Is that what we're assuming with these numbers, like every single student, whether they need it or not? Or are we assuming that some of the students could have their own devices? I mean, I'm trying to formulate what I'm trying to ask here. So there's some children that won't need a Chromebook at home, right? They have computers. Obviously, some will. Some won't need hotspots. Some will. Are we entering into like a bring your own device, or you can have that, or are we assuming every single child gets a Chromebook?
So this is the assumption that every child would, let's take COVID out of the equation. Not out of the equation, but that every student would have a device when they're in our schools. Also, we have the ability, if those students aren't in schools, to send devices home. So COVID will pass, and we want to be able to ensure our students have devices that they can use on site. So this gives us the ability to ensure every student in Durham Public School has a device on site or off site.
Okay. Will students be able to bring their own devices to school and connect to the network to work, or are we disencouraging that?
We're
in preference of using the Chromebooks.
Yes, sir. We're disencouraging that for several reasons. One, right now we have no policy in place to cover that. Two, we would have to ensure that those devices are SIPA compliant. With this, we ensure our devices in SIPA compliance. We ensure the specs are up to what they need for the software we're going to be using. And we can ensure we have the proper instructional devices so instruction can take place.
Okay.
Let me make a couple comments before the board members jump in with questions. May I? So going back to whoever has the slide, can you go back to the price of those Chromebooks? Yes, please. Thank you. Benjamin, please, can you explain to our board how did we arrive to $360 per device, because we're buying a really high volume of devices? Why the price is so high? What's the package that's come with those devices?
You look in the packet.
Ben,
Yeah.
There real quick. Dr. Mbenga, board members again. The 360 and 75 cents for those devices was really, is a price we really haggled with Lenovo to make sure that one, we get a very low price, but also a price that seems really inclusive of all that we would need to make this a successful one-to-one initiative. One, it's inclusive of a hybrid service model. When I talk about a service hybrid model, the more we have devices in the district, the more we're going to experience breakages and the need to fix them, or help that's needed for these devices. We don't have enough staff. The tech champions in the schools are overloaded at the time. It's been going back and forth. So we bargained with our partner Lenovo to include a third-party vendor, this vendor that will speed up the turnaround time in case we need to service these devices. That was one of the components in that. And the vendor that we got is called Celtech. It's a local vendor in Durham. They have a local office in Durham that they'll be able to help us with that. The second component to this price that made it stick up there was the 1% provision of hard spares. If we're to buy 20,000 devices, we shall get a 1% of hard spares there. So we think of 200 devices in there. That was another hot item that you provided with that. So in case these devices break, remember I talked about the buffer of 60 machines. These hot spares, the 1%, again, will build that buffer. So at any one time, we don't expect kids to go without a device. So that was a very good point that other vendors were not providing us. The third point in this price that really stuck it where it is the 3-year battery warranty. Lenovo is providing us with a 3-year battery warranty. Historical data has shown us after L2, these Chromebooks start struggling with battery issues, and that's because kids charge them wrong, they're not kept well. So having a 3-year battery warranty on these Chromebooks, you're having a machine that's guaranteed to work for at least 3 years without interruption. Included in this also was the unlimited accidental damage. We have a 4-year warranty of unlimited accidental damage. Elementary kids could drop them every month and Lenovo will service them and put them back in circulation. We haven't had that with any vendor for the 10 years that I've been in the district. They've always guaranteed us with only one repair every year for accidental damages, but with this one, it's unlimited. That was another great point to this. In addition to that, Lenovo is providing us with up to 1,000 power adapters. As you all know, including adults ourselves, our power adapters get lost, they get frayed, all these kinds of things happen, and schools have had to keep on buying these power adapters for $45, $40. Lenovo, again, in this package and this partnership, they're providing us with up to 1,000 power adapters that the schools will have to use throughout this time. Another component they're adding in this that we have always neglected along the way is the management of these devices in the classroom. With this price, they're offering us a 1-year license with what they call Learn School. Learn School is a management software. It can be used in the classrooms. Last Friday, they demonstrated it to teachers and tech champions and the IT department. In that price, they're providing us with a 1-year subscription to make sure that these devices are managed well. With kids, with every child having a device, they could go to any site they want, but with these softwares, you can help and view and manage how these machines are not really abused. So in a nutshell, this has been really, they've offered all the discounts that they could offer us through the state. And yeah, those are some of the components that really we couldn't get anywhere from any other vendors. We vetted Dell, we vetted CDW, who are also, they sell different products, Acer, Lenovo, Dell, but they all couldn't come up with these components for such a price. So yeah, those are some of those. Ben, I don't know if you want to add to that.
One thing I want to add is the white gloving. So white gloving helps us. The devices will already be tagged, already provisioned and ready to go when we take them out of the box, which saves us time and staging. So that is also a portion of that, which also goes back to our staffing. So it helps us in that component as well.
Did I hear you correctly, Mr. Brown, that the imaging will already be done?
Yes, sir, the Chromebooks. And so the white gloving, part of the white gloving.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, did you, when you talked to us about this before, you were debating between 3rd through 12th grade and K through 12. I assume this is a total K through 12 plan as it's presented, including.
Yes, ma'am, it is K-12.
And the device that you're procuring is the same for kindergartners 1st grade.
Yes, but it is a touch component in this device. It is the Lenovo 308. So it also has touch capability.
This is a touch screen Chromebook.
Yes, ma'am.
Does it flip? Does it bend back on itself? Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Are you taking questions on everything right now? I mean,
Yes,
I don't
ma'am.
wanna-
We'll answer any questions you may have.
I'm concerned about the cost of the hotspots and the district taking on that in a long-term basis. And I think there's an urgency to getting the devices purchased. Is there an urgency to buying hotspots at this time, or can that decision wait till we've had more conversations with the county about taking ownership of that?
Ms. Meyer, or Mr. Dr. Miranda, you're going to answer? Go ahead.
I wanted to jump on that. Thank you, Ms. Meyer, for asking that question. So we really wanted to present you the whole package, how much that is going to cost, $10.3 million. I think we are pretty much in a rush to get the devices. But as far as hotspot is concerned, I think definitely we really want to work with our commissioners, and we really want to work with DPS Education Foundation to see how they'll be able to help us with that. But we just really wanted to show the full package, how much that is going to cost. And again, not only that, we really wanted to bring the hotspot so that I knew that I was anticipating questions, say, we having those devices, what's going to happen with internet connections? If we have devices, we don't have them. So the reason why, that's what we just wanted to bring the whole package to you. But I don't think we're in a hurry to be able to get this hotspot. If we can just get approval to be able to buy devices and then work with our community partners to see how we can raise money to be able to get those hotspots.
As it relates to hotspots, are we assuming one hotspot per device? Meaning, if there's 3 kids in a house, three would get a machine and 3 would get hotspots? And what is the capacity that we know of for those? Can multiple devices connect to those particular hotspots?
So let me just jump in, and then I'll let Ben and Paul respond. Chairman Lee. So when we were looking at getting quotes this past few days and over the weekend, there were several of them that were saying we will provide you with 3 gigs for a hotspot, 5 gigs for a hotspot, and AT&T was able, this bid here, or this quote here, was able to offer us unlimited gigs for each hotspot. So it is our projection, once we get accurate data back from all of the schools and we get the hotspots, that it would be 1 hotspot per household. And potentially, depending on, as you all know, different, like AT&T may not have great coverage in Northern Durham, or Sprint may not have great coverage in Southern Durham. So those are some of the conversations that we are continuing to have, because having a hotspot that doesn't work isn't going to help our children. So it is, we are continuing to explore it. But as Dr. Mubanga indicated, given the short turnaround, we didn't want to kind of we wanted to try to give you as full a picture as we could. But it is, we are continuing to investigate, but it may be possible that we can even get hotspots that could potentially serve an apartment complex or an apartment building. So we want to make sure that all of our students do have access, but we are continuing to explore those options. So in answer to your question, it is that the plan, and that's why we went with the unlimited data, is to have 1 per household, so that no one child would be limited in their data access.
Okay, thank you for that. And I just have one more question. I'll let the rest of the board ask. If we could go back a couple of slides where it says we're at this step, current step. I'm curious about this. Is this sequential going across the screen? So we're saying provide professional learning for staff, then update development policies all the way over to red. Is that what the expectation path? Or is that the path that we're looking at going for this?
Well, and I believe Dr. Hardy's probably, I'm sure, on the call. So I would defer to her on the professional learning portion, but we are all working this together, like congruently. So it's not that we're going to hand them out and then do professional learning and then update policies. We're currently I'm working with Dr. Pack and her team right now on policies. So we're just we're doing everything simultaneously in these.
Okay.
So it is not sequential.
Okay, that's fair. And that's what I need. I was curious because I was curious about the um, um, like the selecting and learning management system coming last, right? And then we have professional learning for staff. I would hope that we would select the system so that we can do it all at the same time. Dr. Hardy, I think you said you had your hand up, but that was my concern. And so I think having everything kind of done semi in parallel, some of the things at the same time, some things are going to be sequentially, would be helpful for that. Dr. Hardy.
Yes, sir. Good evening, board members. And Ms. Giovanni is absolutely correct. The small groups as part of the one-to-one technology committee, these are those small groups that are working on those, and that actually will be happening in a simultaneous fashion. The professional learning, as you mentioned, Chairman Lee, we would be providing professional learning so that teachers and staff have awareness of how to use the learning management system, but also how to make sure that they are building the coursework within the learning management system so it can be accessible for our students as well as for our families and community. This has truly been an integrated and partnership between our information technology department as well as digital teaching and learning and academics. And we'll be providing the full one-to-one presentation at our June board meeting. But we know the first step is to make sure that we have those devices. So we appreciate the opportunity to share this with you today.
Thank you. I'll open it up to the rest of the board members for questions. Let's see if we see anyone come off. Just speak up if I may not be able to see you on screen. Okay, Mr. Kaysen, and then Steve.
So thank you for this update, and I'm really glad to see that we got so many good components from the contract with Lenovo. Is there, I want to ask a software or adaptability, accessibility question. I've heard from a number of teachers who chose to use Zoom as a way of working with their classes during this time. And many were saying that all Chromebooks are not truly Zoom compatible, and students were not able to fully use these services such as the screen sharing or chat. There were some things that they just weren't able to take part of in those Zoom meetings because of the level of Chromebooks that they had access to. Is that considered here? Would that not be a problem with this particular model?
May I answer that?
Yes, please. Yes.
There are several components to that. One, we need to ensure in most Chromebooks, the actual Zoom application needs to be downloaded or attached to the browser. So that's one place you need to look at. So it may be user error. It may just be a setup feature. Also, when it comes to Dr. Hardy and her team choosing a learning management system and moving forward, Zoom may not be the platform that we use. But currently, we would have to look to see if that was a user error, the application was installed correctly on that browser, and that may be a possibility there. Or even bandwidth. There are a couple things that we have going on there, but that's kind of something we would have to look at from the help desk aspect and work back through that.
I think, Mr. Brown, I think what Mr. Kaysen is asking is, have we confirmed that the Chromebooks that we are attempting to purchase are Zoom, can support Zoom? Is that accurate, Mr. Kaysen? That's what he's asking.
If I could just answer that, yes, we have verified that.
Thank you.
If I could just say one thing, Mr. Kaysen, so what we will find is that we don't have an enterprise license yet for Zoom. And so some of our teachers are using the free versions, which have limited capabilities. So as we move forward with the identification of not only our LMS and our devices, we will identify those specific tools such as Zoom. It's not an LMS, it's a video conferencing tool. So we will identify and make sure we remove all those barriers for teachers and our educators before we roll them out. Right now, we're kind of in the exploration phase. Some people are using Google Meet, some people are using Zoom, some people are using Teams. So right now, we're really just exploring and making sure we identify the best options as we move forward to being one-to-one, and also clearing those barriers for access prior to us rolling this out in August.
Thank you. And that of course is embedded in my question, the fact that I'm assuming and hoping and expecting that we will have a unified platform, learning platform in place, as well as well, I'll just leave it right there. Thank you.
You can speak, Ms. Sidbury.
Yeah, so what we want to do is make sure that in our K2 babies, they don't have the same needs as our high school babies. So we are going to try to narrow as much as possible and provide options that are developmentally sound for our learners. So I don't know that we will be in a position where we would 100% have one, simply because the kindergartner and their functionality and instructional needs will be different than a senior. And so we will try to narrow in our grade bands, at worst, elementary and secondary, in terms of our learning management system, in terms of supporting our families and making sure they don't have to go to the 50-11 things that are going on. But we want to make sure we bring forth recommendations that are developmentally sound.
Chairman Lee, I do want to segue. Yeah. I know some board members have additional questions, but it was a perfect segue from Ms. Sidbury that we have also worked closely with our exceptional children department to ensure that the Chromebooks that they are provided have maybe larger screens or other adaptations that will ensure that those children are able to maximize their learning as well. So I just wanted to point that out for the board as well.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. That's important. Any other questions? Steve, yes.
Thank you. So did I hear correctly that we're going to get a more robust presentation on the whole one-to-one in June? Is that right? Yes, okay, so I don't need to go into detail on that then. That's great. Thank you. Just to clarify the cost, could we get the slide with the cost back on there? And while she's looking at it, it looked to me like in the calculation for the total cost, we did not include the one-time cost for the hotspots. Am I looking at that correctly?
I intended to. The 5940. Is that?
Well, I mean, it doesn't seem to add up to me. I don't see how that all adds up to 10 million.
Okay.
That
might be that would be my mathematical error then, but no, it isn't. I intended to include the 5940 in there.
This looks like it would be, just off the top of my head, almost 15 million, which concerns me financially.
Right. So, you mean the 7 million, the 627,000. Now, of course, the adding 2,400,000, 5,000. That I don't think.
Oh, that's 5,000. Okay.
It's
my bad.
5,000.
Yeah,
I thought we were talking. I thought we were looking at a million there. Okay.
No.
Never mind. Okay. It was the only spot where they had to throwing the zeros in there threw me off as a math teacher. So thank you for that.
It's that haircut, Steve.
It is haircut.
It's that haircut. Yeah.
And just as a point of personal privilege, I am unhappy that Ms. Fort Brown wore a hat and did not give me advance notification. I would have worn my hat as well.
All right.
All right, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Natalie.
Thank you. Thank you all for all the work on this and figuring it out so thoroughly and so quickly. The slide you put up that showed the different schools and where the needs were, where the gaps were, it strikes me that we're getting 20,000 devices that are probably better than the existing devices. So are we definitely going to distribute them in this fashion, like WG Elementary that only needs one new thing is only going to get one? I mean, am I reading this chart right? and they'll just keep cobbling along with their older devices as what they give out. It seems like there could be some equity issues because some schools might not be getting any of these new shiny ones under this plan.
Let me jump in real quick, Mr. Brown. So Dr. Bullock and I are meeting tomorrow. As you know, everything we do, we try to make sure it is informed by equity. And when we were initially talking about the 3-to-1 plan, we were following that protocol as well. So when all the new devices come in and we assess the condition of all the devices, they will be distributed equitably. I don't know if that answers your question, but yes, Dr. Bullock and I will be meeting tomorrow, Ms. Fire.
Like the touchscreen feature, I'm guessing that our older ones don't have that. So you could have a class, you would want the class to all have the same thing, right? I mean, you would want as much as possible to be able to, and I'm glad that he's going to be part of that conversation because that's so important. I don't know, Mike, you know what to call this. I never know what to call any of this IT stuff, but the other concern I have is that we might need to do some streaming and some classes that are in session, you know, 1 day a week with rotating students. So the physical hardware, fiber, wiring, whatever within our schools, do we need to do any upgrades to that as well and moving forward? Are y'all thinking through those issues? What am I calling that? What am I talking? I mean, you know what I'm talking about, hopefully.
The network infrastructure. So last month, when I presented to you all about E-rate, currently at all of our schools, we have 1 gig. But I have put in for E-rate to move up to 10 gig to scale up for 10 gig at every school. Scalability. So now we currently have actually 8 schools that are 1-to-1, 5 that were purposeful that are running on the 1 gig. So we know we can run now. My concern would be the 10 gigs moving forward, but scaling up will help with that. So I'm almost sure we're going to be fine with what we're moving forward with. That's the purpose of scaling up, so you can have the bandwidth to have all these devices on your network. It's already in the works.
So if people were doing live streaming lessons from multiple classrooms, is that enough bandwidth to do that like in a high school? I mean, that's been one of my concerns. And I don't know if other families have been having problems, but when multiple people get on work things and Zooming and classes at the same time, even your home infrastructure gets.
Now, I can say this, from our current data from since I've been here, the schools, and they are smaller schools, I would say that, we haven't had any bandwidth problems. Moving up to 10 gigs, I have no problem. I have no reservations with saying I don't think we'll have any problem. The 10 gigs is coming. It's just a matter of fact if E-rate certifies us in the next 2 months and we move forward. We're already planning to implement that starting possibly in September.
And Ben, if I could just add on, all our schools are equipped with high capacity access points. So 6 years ago, we didn't have them. So yeah, we had such problems whereby if say, more than 40 students connected to one access point to more than 50, yes, the bandwidth will be compromised. Right now, we have high capacity access points. We can comfortably say you would have 75 devices on there streaming. Now, if they're playing videos and streaming and doing other things, yeah, the quality will get compromised. But for day-to-day classroom streaming, we are pretty confident with the high capacity access points plus the bandwidth that Mr. Brown just talked about. So yes.
Thank you all so much. And the thing we didn't talk about was the source of funding. We talked a little bit about it with the commissioners. Is this part of what we submitted for our CARES money? And
yes, Ms. Byers, that's pretty much our intent. I think we really wanted to get devices out of the way, and we're not going to be able to use all 11.8 just dealing with one-to-one. We have other needs as well. So I think once we get the devices out of the way, when it comes to hotspot and things of the other nature, so we're going to have to look funding other places. So we still have a lot of work to do. And again, we have a promise with our CARES Act money to get, but I think at this point we're coming to you so we can get your approval when it comes to our fund balance so we can expedite the process. And then when we get CARES money in our district, then we'll be able to replenish our fund balance.
Chairman Lee, may I speak? I'm not sure that if you recall the we have a deadline of June 1st to get these orders in, and that's why we did request this specially called meeting. And it's on such short notice because in order, as you can imagine, around the country and the world, every school or the majority of schools are trying to get these devices. So in order for us to get in the queue and have them in time for our students, we would need to submit our order by June 1 for the devices, not the hotspots.
And what have you been told about the turnaround on them, Ms. Giovanni?
I would defer to Mr. Majumbi and Mr. Brown on that conversation.
So if we order on June 1, we will start receiving devices mid-July. So we get in there now, the queue, and they'll ship them as they build them. So we'll probably get like 4,000, the next 4,000, and we'll start getting them mid-July, which gives us enough time to prep for the upcoming school year.
Sounds good. Any other questions?
I have a couple of questions. One, thank y'all so much for putting all this together so quickly. Literally something we've been talking about for a while, and here we go. And I'm really thankful to hear about all the different like warranties that are also in place with these devices. Just curious, do the learning management system, is that something also that we'll be kind of paying for as we go into this one-to-one remote learning space? Like, is that also something that will have a price tag with it as well?
Dr. Hardy, can you please?
Yes, sir. I unmuted myself. Thank you. There are several options that will not have any additional costs that are free. There are also some options that are in partnership with the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, which provides LEAs a discount. And to Mr. Kason's question earlier, as well as Ms. Beyer, we want to make sure that as we're making that selection, that we have the input and support of our teachers. And it also is a system that can be used by our parents and families so that they can stay in contact with our teachers as we're doing remote learning. It's our intent to be able to bring forward that recommendation and information when we share the entire one-to-one plan with you at the end of June.
Thank you. I think it's so important as we're considering like the costs. I know we're not just doing this because of COVID, but COVID has forced us to do it quicker, all the costs that are coming with that, right? And so whenever we're talking to people about funding for schools, it's not just about devices, it's all the other things that are going to come with that. So that's just me on my soapbox talking about how we can really talk about these costs. But thank y'all so much. I would move that we approve the purchase of the devices, not the hotspots, but go ahead and procuring those devices tonight.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded that we approve the purchase of the devices, not the hotspots. Was that the correct motion?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Chairman Lee, did we address the carts? I believe there's also the purchase of the carts for the devices also. I'm not sure. I may have misheard it, but we also would need a motion to purchase that. I think they're like $600,000.
I would move to purchase everything except the hotspots.
Second.
Okay, so the motion was amended to approve everything presented except the hotspots. That's how we have to proceed as an amended motion. Amended motion. We'll vote via roll call. Ms. Beyer.
Aye.
Ms. Fort Brown.
Aye.
Ms. Umstead.
Aye.
Mr. Kason.
Aye.
Mr. Unruh.
Aye.
Mr. Sears.
This is Matt Sears. Aye.
The chair votes aye as well. It passes unanimously. The purchase of everything presented except for the hotspots. All right, next item on our agenda is something that we added and is for the cleaning and disinfecting of the buildings. Dr. Monk.
All right, good evening, everyone. Board Chair Lee, Dr. Mabanga, board members. As you know, or may be aware, the state approved an extension of its emergency leave for its classified employees. And so we have surveyed our custodial staff in particular, and from the responses that we received, only about 6% have indicated that they are willing to return at this time. However, we will be having staff and students return to the school to pick up their personal belongings beginning June 8th. So in order to fill that gap, to do the cleaning as well as disinfecting in the schools, we are proposing to enter into a contract with Janaking. As a part of the materials that we submitted to you all, you will see a summary of our proposed action plan. You also see the other 4 bids that were submitted, and please note that Janaking was significantly lower than the other 4 bidders. We need to get this work done before the end of day next Friday so that we can start having staff to come back in and retrieve their belongings. We also have a bid that's still out now for the week following June the 5th for disinfecting services during that week. We have not received those bids back yet, but once we do, we will certainly notify you of them. So we're asking the board to approve a contract with Janaking for cleaning and disinfecting services in amount of $154,660.25. And I am open for any questions that you may have.
If I could just jump in, if you could just sort of pretend I know nothing about this, right? And these buildings have been somewhat vacant for a specific amount of time, and what we know about this virus, can you just kind of give me the key details to the need for the cleaning service?
Certainly. To your point, they have been vacant for quite some time. We've also had to go through and do pest management in the facilities, meaning treating for insects and possibly rodents in some of those areas. And so that needs to be cleaned out. Some of these facilities have operated as food feeding sites. So we've had people in them, whether to use the restroom or to wash their hands. We've also distributed devices, distributed caps and gowns from time to time in the area. And so it's time for us now to go get these facilities back in shape for people to be able to walk through them with a clean and disinfected manner.
Yeah, and to be clear, I'm not at all against that. I just note that 150,000 is about maybe two positions with salary and benefits. So are we getting guidance? Again, this is not to undermine the thought that goes into this, but is this best practice with our peers? Is this CDC guidance? Is Duke doing similar things with their buildings? Or is this are we cleaning some parts and not all, or is this we're cleaning every square foot?
Yeah, because we've had staff that at one point we had shut down the buildings completely. The schools asked us to give them access to these facilities so that they could, whether it was making instructional packets or doing miscellaneous work from time to time. And so we did provide them with that access. So we have no idea of knowing really when somebody's in a particular space last, because the schools still have control over that. It is part of what CDC and the Durham Health Department is recommending before we return to our facilities. And just having visited some of them, they really need a good cleaning before we ask people to come in and start, clearing out their lockers and things like that.
But just reading through the contract, it just looks like they're kind of clean dusting and spraying. It's not at least that's the language in here: spray, disinfecting, and clean and dust areas before disinfecting. So it's almost somebody sweeping disinfectant around. Is that, and that's,
so So it's cleaning, taking out the trash. It's the normal daily cleaning that we would do. So we'll be getting all the debris and the trash out, cleaning out the dirt, and then we will be doing disinfecting. This is not the summer deep clean items that we would do at the end of the year. This is just literally preparing buildings to be occupied by humans again, so that they can come in and collect their items. There are going to be a lot of people going through these facilities that have not been occupied in quite some time. Like I said, having walked some of them after we've done pest management, we do not want people to go in there without them being swept up and cleaned and disinfected.
And yeah, like Matt, I don't want to argue with it. It's going to be a one point in time cleaning, and it's going to give us some astounding look at what we might be paying to ramp up disinfecting and cleaning all through the next school year, right? I mean, and we're going to have to let people know they're being cleaned once, but that doesn't mean if people come in over a week, wipe hard surfaces in their room if they're touching stuff. I mean, I think we're going to need to let people know they need to still be cleaning preventatively for themselves.
Yeah, that's correct. So the next bids that you will see come in would be to address the daily disinfecting, at least at a minimum for the week of June 8th through the 12th, while they're being occupied and our custodial services are still not on site. But even once they return, especially when we move into year round and into our traditional calendar, the likelihood that we would need to contract for this type of service, in particular for the disinfectant, is still there. And it should not be lost on anyone that this is it's expensive to do the things that the CDC and the health departments are recommending.
Julius, are they cleaning desks, spraying desks and everything as well, and lockers and all of that?
That's right. All the high touch areas are going to be disinfected.
Okay. It's worth every penny. Is this a minority company?
I'm going to say no, but I can. Travis, do you know if they're a minority vendor?
Can't hear you, Travis.
I do not know if they're a minority vendor, but I will check and find out right now.
Thank you.
I do know Janet King is a franchise. They have them everywhere. So the employees may be. It's just this particular franchise may be minority owned. There are quite a few minority owned Janet Kings around. So maybe this one is. Are there any other questions from board members? Looking for hands. Okay. All right, and Mr. Anderson will give us that information. So I'll need a motion to approve the contracting of the cleaning and disinfecting contract of 2020.
I move that we approve the contract for Janet King for cleaning, disinfecting, and dusting our area, $154,000 plus.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded. There's a motion on the floor that's been moved and properly seconded. I'll do a roll call vote. Please vote your pleasure. Ms. Byer?
Aye.
Ms. Fort Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Umstead?
Aye.
Mr. Kaysen?
Aye.
Mr. Unruh?
Aye.
Mr. Sears?
This is Matt Sears. Aye.
The chair also votes aye and passes unanimously. The contract has been approved. Okay, that is the end of our special called meeting tonight. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, board members, for your flexibility. Thank you, staff, for your quick motion. This is really good times for what we're doing here in Durham to continue DPS to continue to grow our students technology-wise and preparing our schools to come back, for everyone to come back and get their things. IT staff, again, thank you guys very much for everything that you do. And with that, I will adjourn. Thank you all. Have a good night.